Hello. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I gave a little bit brief of your story in the introduction, but let's talk about who you are, a little bit about your story, and then obviously we'll dive a little bit deeper, but kind of bring me back to the moment you had a feeling that something was wrong. Which then obviously was confirmed that you were diagnosed with breast cancer. So take me back to that horrible time in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, so if I guess it was about this time, actually, 3 years ago, probably the beginning of May, end of April. I mean, I literally just accidentally, kind of touched the side of my chest there, and I felt something that I hadn't felt before that felt really strange. And I think I knew immediately because of how different it felt, how irregular, how hard it was. Like I almost told people that it was like like a rock that you would find somewhere on the
Hmm.
street that was maybe about like yay big that I could feel. So I immediately just had a really bad gut feeling about that. And that's when I kind of started picking up the phone, trying to get a mammogram. And that was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be initially. Not necessarily to get the requisition, but to get something scheduled in a reasonable amount of time at my age was challenging. Um, so there was a waiting kind of period, right, where I knew I had felt something. I had a really bad feeling about it, but I couldn't access the screening. They were telling me it's going to be like 9 months until you can get a mammogram at the hospital closest to my house in Toronto. Um, so I was like, okay. I didn't really accept that, but I kind of had to sit with it for a minute and then kind of come up with a plan of action. But I really started to feel just unwell after that. I just remember times when I'd be out with friends and I just wouldn't want to do anything. Like I wasn't social. I started to have a lot of pain, like right here in my armpit, unbeknownst to me, but like it was obviously it had metastasized or it was metastasizing to that kind of main lymph node in there and a couple others. So I think my body was starting to tell me like, hey, something is really, really wrong because it's giving me more and more cues. So that's when I really like vigorously started calling my family doctor, being like, hey, I'm not waiting 9 months for a mammogram. Like, what can we do? So she had kind of switched the hospital networks to see if she'd get me in earlier in a different area, which they could, but it was still supposed to be like, 3 month wait. So it was just like repeatedly calling and calling and
Hmm.
calling. And I ended up getting in earlier just from a cancellation. They were like, okay, we actually had a cancellation. Can you come tomorrow? And I was like, yes. And I only got that because I called like every day being like, do you have cancellations? Do you have cancellations? And so then I was officially diagnosed on June 2nd, 2022. And it was almost like a relief. That
Hmm.
sounds weird, but like that
Hmm.
waiting period of knowing something is wrong, and maybe people not taking you as seriously because of your age, was really, really hard. And I felt validated when I finally had it confirmed.
Do you remember, were you alone when you found out, or was your now fiance there or your parents?
Yeah, he was there, and like my mom had gone with me to a lot of the kind of biopsies and follow-up
Hmm.
appointments, and I was really appreciative of the individual who ended up being my surgeon. He was really like a straight shooter, which I like.
Hmm.
So when he said, "Here's your imaging, like we're gonna biopsy it. I might be wrong, but like I'm pretty sure this is cancer." So he just told me that before I even got the confirmation,
Hmm.
which I like. Like I don't like waiting. I'd rather just have someone tell me how it is so that I can process it.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's harder with like the wish wash. I would rather
Yeah,
someone just like straight shoot,
yeah, yeah,
especially when it's something like that you don't want. I feel
yeah.
like a false hope, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
like
Like you'd
also
rather, yeah.
the limbo, the like waiting is so mentally draining, and it's like once you have confirmation, even though it's the worst case scenario, the thing you didn't want, at least now it's validated and you can do something about it.
Hmm. Do you think you made a comment about people being maybe not as understanding or taking you seriously because of your age? What is the statistic of being diagnosed with, do you know, of breast cancer? at
So it's
32.
like it's a 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. I think there's like a misconception that it's an older person's
Mm-hmm.
disease, like that women, over 50 get breast cancer, women under 50 don't. And I think its prevalence is definitely higher as you age, but there's certainly women who are being
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed in their 30s and their 40s. And to me, it's just crazy that we don't offer screening to people. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
have family history. I don't have, a mutation, a known mutation, but I still had breast cancer. And most people that will be diagnosed don't have family history, don't have mutations, right? To give them access to earlier screening.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that if there was any family history or mutation of this. You were the first one in your
Yeah,
family to
I
be
was the
diagnosed.
first, yeah, known in our family on, I think, both sides of my family. So, yeah, it can really happen to anyone. And I think, things I did learn about myself in hindsight were that, I had pretty dense breast tissue,
Mm-hmm.
but if you never have a mammogram, you're not able to have a mammogram, you don't really know that.
Mm-hmm.
The flaw in our healthcare system, because that alone increases someone's risk of breast cancer so much. And then on top of that, like, I had crazy hormone levels that were completely like out of whack. But again, I don't know that because they don't really proactively like measure your hormone levels or say, oh wow, like look at how estrogen dominant she is. Like that creates a really favorable environment to the development of certain types of cancer. So proactive health is like unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
not really
Mm-hmm.
on anyone's radar,
I
especially.
also feel like you have been, which is so amazing, vocal on your Instagram about your journey. And I think that's really important because I feel like for even our parents, like way back in, like before Instagram or social media, I feel like there's always a blessing and a curse because obviously you like get the trolls and you like get the hate, but there is a lot of support and it does help other people. Like I am sure your story has encouraged so many other women to check or just be hyper alert or hypersensitive that it can happen to anyone, which is like amazing of you to share your journey because I know that
Yeah,
is like helping other people to like be on top of things that I don't think you would normally think of unless or maybe they weren't even really openly talked about back in the day,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So that is a blessing and a curse of social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really cool to see your journey, obviously from afar. Wish
Yeah.
you didn't have to share it,
Yeah.
but how you've like navigated it and helped bring awareness. Um, for so when you got the official
Mhm.
diagnosis to when treatment started, what type of treatment did you do,
Yeah.
and kind of your journey?
Okay. Yeah. So when I was officially diagnosed, as I mentioned, in a way, it was a relief because now we can kind of spring into action and get started on things. And it allowed me to be more open about what I was going through because I was kind of going through something major and in this period
Mm-hmm.
of limbo and felt like I couldn't talk about it because what if it's not cancer? You don't want to be the person who thinks they have cancer and then doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have it. So it was a weight in that sense. So the first step in the process for me was a fertility preservation. So we kind of did that first, which took about a month to freeze my eggs in the event of wanting a family in the future, just because that is more complicated now. And then I was recommended to do chemotherapy before I had surgery. So they call that like neoadjuvant chemotherapy. The goal is that maybe they can get rid of the lymph node metastasis if there is it, which we knew that I did have it because they biopsied it. So they're trying to see if they could get rid of that so they could be less surgically invasive, and also maybe shrink the tumor a bit so that they don't have to take as much
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. So we did that. It didn't work as well as I guess they had initially hoped. I ended up still having some metastasis in my lymph nodes when they did surgery following the chemotherapy. So at that point, I was recommended a second surgery to go in and just take all the lymph nodes out of my left side. So they scheduled that about a month later, which delayed things a little bit. And obviously it was a bit of a curveball. I wasn't expecting that to have to go for another surgery. But the good news was when they went back in, they took like, I think 13 or 14 more lymph nodes and they were all cleared. So it was peace of mind from that perspective. And then following that, I think there was about another kind of month period of recovery. And then I went into radiation. So we did, I think, 20 rounds of radiation on kind of both the, breast and the armpit area. And then following and kind of during that, they started to put you on into medically induced menopause. So my cancer was hormone receptor positive. So they put me on Zoladex and a drug called anastrozole, which basically just blocks estrogen production in the body. So that you stay in a state of menopause and essentially there's no estrogen to fuel any cancer that might be lingering somewhere is the idea. So that course of drugs is at least 5 years. So I've been on that for approaching 3 years. And then kind of following all that normal treatment, then I got put on a newer drug called Verzenio, which is an oral medication that you take twice a day for 2 years. I'll be done that soon. That's a pretty rough one, though. Hasn't been an easy 2 years on that drug, but it's supposed to be pretty effective at killing any microscopic cancer that might be lingering somewhere that chemo missed. So I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be on it.
Yeah, wow, that is, I feel like, I mean, even when you're talking there, I didn't know even
Yeah.
the drugs that you still take leaders. You kind of just think of when you're not in, when you haven't experienced that journey before, um, you're kind of like, oh, you go through chemo and then
Yeah.
it's good. So
Yeah.
it's really educational to know there's so much more after the
Yeah, and I
chemo and the
had no
radiation
idea.
and the
Like, there's
surgery.
just it's an ongoing process, right? And now I have my MRIs every year to check things out of
Hmm.
my breast, um, which is part of the reason I opted for a lumpectomy and not mastectomy because a lot of people will ask that question, and for me, I wanted that access to that high risk MRI, which
Yeah,
I think is easier to get in Canada than in the US. But people have different things that they prioritize, right? I know some people find MRIs very anxiety inducing, whereas I like almost like the extra security to see like what else might be going on, even though it's led me to like get brain MRIs and liver MRIs and all this because of, incidental
but at least
findings.
you
But
know.
at least I know. So I kind of like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Is there anything looking back during your treatment, um, even up to now, you're saying the medication that you're still on, um, which I'm sure is hard because I feel like people are probably like, oh, it's 2 years out. Like they're
Yeah.
not thinking you're still on this medication. But is there
Yeah.
anything from a patient perspective to family or friends perspective that you would recommend to do and not to do?
Yeah. Like during when someone's in treatment, I know a lot of people always reach out and like, how can we help? How can we help? And I think every patient knows that the intent there is good, but we are so overwhelmed. Like I'm sure you know from your situation, sometimes you don't know what to say. Like I don't know what I need. I don't know how you can help me. It's just when people just send an Uber Eats gift card so I don't have to cook, or like help me with like someone to clean my house, like things like that. When you just don't have the energy for it, that's so helpful. Or just I love to read, so people who just bought me books or sent me gift cards for books or anything that just be proactive, right? Like if you know the person at all, just think about what they like. Or if you don't know them that well, everybody can use
Gift
gift cards
cards.
for food and cleaning when they're going through a rough time.
Totally. I feel
Yeah.
like gift cards, even still to this day, I feel like when someone, I don't know, obviously our situations are different. However, I feel like even now when someone asks me what I want, even like 5 years out, I'm like,
Yeah.
gift card. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like,
No. Yeah.
I don't want to like put the time and energy to be like, I want this one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like,
I have
you're
no clue.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, you learn that like life can throw a curveball at you so fast that you're just like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
No. Gift cards and like the food just can't go wrong with
Yes, the
helpful
food.
for food gift
Um,
cards. Yeah.
Speaking of treatment, one thing that you shared on your journey, and I feel like is like becoming very popular is cold capping. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I like honestly didn't even know cold capping was a thing. I remember I was speaking to my manager at the time from work and I was just crying like, oh, I'm going to lose my hair. Like, how am I going to do this job? Because I wanted to keep working. Like without hair, like everyone's going to know I'm sick. And she's like, oh no, like you can try cold capping. And I was like, what's that? Like I had no clue. So then I went down a rabbit hole looking into it, and basically it's like scalp hypothermia almost. Like you freeze your scalp with a cap that's kept in dry ice, or some larger centers like Princess Margaret in Toronto have actual machines in the centers now that can do it. And the whole aim is to freeze the hair follicles so that less chemotherapy drug can get in there and kill it. Um, and you have to manage your expectations. Like I definitely lost a lot of hair, but if you saw me throughout chemo and you didn't know me that well, like obviously my face changed. There's certain things that change when you're on chemotherapy because of steroids and all the other medication being pumped into your body. No one would have really been able to tell I was sick. I kept enough hair for basically my entire course of treatment. At the end, it did start to shed quite a bit, but then at the same time, it was also regrowing. So I started to look a little bit weird because I have pretty thick hair, as you'll notice. So I did end up deciding to cut it short eventually, to just make it look more uniform. But yeah, I mean, it works. Definitely not going to keep all your hair, but if that's a priority for someone, it's an option. I think more and more younger women are exploring it because I think, losing your hair in your 30s, early 40s, that's a very traumatic experience, especially when you're in the height of your career. You have different things going on. Like the hardest part of cancer is looking sick,
Mm.
I think. Like I don't want to say chemotherapy is easy, it's certainly not, but like it's something you can get through, I think, if you have the time to rest and all of that. It's the way it makes you look that is
Mm-hmm.
really the hardest part mentally. And just, walking down the street and being like, oh, that person's sick. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's hard. Like nobody wants to be stared at. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's cold capping was really helpful
Is
because of
cold is cold capping? I don't know how if Canada and the US are different or how it works. Is it do you buy the cap? I know you mentioned Prince Burger, or do
so
they
you
supply it or is
so
it out of pocket?
it's out of pocket. I don't know if that will ever change. I think in
Mm-hmm.
Europe they have funding for it and will pay for it for women who want it. It's like it is hard. Like
Mm-hmm.
not everybody wants to do it, and I get that because it makes your chemotherapy days like way longer. You have to keep those caps on for like 9 hours in some cases, or stay after for longer if you're doing it there. But yes, it's out of pocket in Canada, unfortunately, so it is a bit of an expense. I was fortunate to be able to afford that, and it was important to me because I wanted to keep working and not be, go
Did
meet a client
you
and look like I was ill. So yeah,
so you continued to work all throughout
yeah,
your treatment?
yeah.
Wow, good for you.
I had a
That's
lot of
incredible.
support. Like I don't think I could have done it without obviously a supportive team and you know
Hmm.
understanding people, but I was able to do it to the best of my ability.
That is amazing. Okay, so now, the 2 years, um, kind of since, is it what's the exact term? Is it cancer free or is it cancer
Some
survivor?
people say cancer free. Like more and more popular is like no evidence of disease, because I think the sneaky part
Mm-hmm.
about cancer is it hides, right? Like sometimes like people are diagnosed stage 4 because they just had no idea it was hiding there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's tricky, because it can be like be microscopic and then suddenly it's growing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
growing somewhere you didn't want it to grow. So they call it kind of in the scientific circles like no evidence of disease. So when they scan your body or do any tests, they don't find any sign of it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not there, unfortunately, because it's such a tricky disease. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, I don't have evidence of disease to my knowledge.
Looking back on, is there any, obviously being diagnosed at 32 to now, what do you look at other people in their early 30s and have these valid emotions of jealousy or grief or triggers of them not, you weren't normal and like you got robbed those years? And obviously, I always say my quote is, since losing Colby, you don't wish trauma upon anyone. Um, However, like navigating those very valid big emotions that you didn't have a normal 20s or 30s, how did you cope with that, or how do you kind of deal with those emotions?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, when you're in the thick of treatment, you're really maybe feeling tired and not feeling like yourself. And just, watching everyone out there traveling or having fun and you can't do those things. It's hard when people would complain about really trivial things. Like that was hard because it's just like, well, I wish I was stuck in an airport right now and not like in the
Mm-hmm.
chemotherapy suite, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to resonate sometimes with other people's problems once you go through something so
Mm-hmm.
big. Not that there isn't validity to everyone's problems, and I still have days where I'm annoyed about stupid things, but now I like laugh and I'm like, oh, look what I'm annoyed about today. This is like
Mm-hmm.
so look how far I've come. Yeah, so I definitely I think I'm better now because I'm like looking and feeling more like myself again. But it like the part like when I was regrowing my hair and it was like curly and short, like and I hadn't maybe like lost some of the weight that I gained during chemotherapy. Yeah, like things like that. It's hard because it's just like I shouldn't. You look in the mirror and you're like, I shouldn't look like this. Like I shouldn't be dealing with this. Like all of that is tough.
Do you think it was triggering seeing like all the like obviously you're talking about people getting married and having
Yeah,
kids, and I feel like it's really hard to like show up to bridal showers or
yeah,
baby showers when you just don't feel yourself.
yeah,
I know that's something that like I've struggled with, and then kind of you like feel guilty,
yeah,
but then at the same time, it's like I feel like it's the wave of emotions and grief and
yeah,
jealousy that I also think are like really important to talk about so people aren't
yeah.
like, oh, I'm a horrible person for feeling this way.
No, no.
It's so valid to feel all of that.
Yeah,
Speaking
totally.
of weddings, baby showers,
Mhm.
you recently got engaged.
Yes,
Congrats.
yeah, thank you.
How's the wedding planning going?
Not well. So we're gonna get there. It's actually funny that you asked because last night I was like, to Phil, my fiance, I was like, yeah, we really need to get on this. Like, it's gonna creep up because we want to do it next year. I was like, we gotta
Yeah.
get planning, we gotta get moving. But I think we've been through so much. I think we just wanted to sit with the positive stuff and kind of
Yeah.
take it slow and not, rush into the next thing. But yeah, we gotta get going on that.
Do you any whether fears or I know you were talking about your egg freezing, the impacts of your future moving forward. So obviously tell us a little bit about freezing your eggs,
Yeah.
that process, and then kind of the impacts like the ever like once you get diagnosed with cancer or once you go through some type of any type of trauma, that changes your life forever.
Yeah.
So those impacts that you maybe didn't expect or did expect since being diagnosed.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize, when you're diagnosed with breast cancer, like the most common type is, hormone receptor positive cancer, which is what I have the most common. So it's progesterone positive, estrogen positive, and HER2 negative. Those are the three, I guess, receptors that can be present in a breast cancer. So there's good treatment options. I have a very treatable type of cancer, which I'm thankful for, but because it's dominated by estrogen, that really messes with like fertility, right? Because part of treating the cancer is going into menopause. And then also when you do chemotherapy, you don't always know how that's going to impact your egg supply. So they recommend kind of everyone do fertility preservation before undergoing chemotherapy. So I did that. It was, it's quite the process. So, anyone who's ever been through IVF, as they know, it's tough. It's grueling, but I got through it and I was fortunate. I got, I think, 26 mature eggs by the end of it. So really thankful for that. So we at least have enough to have some options, and we're looking at kind of embryo creation this summer. So that's coming next. But I think the hard part about it is, do I carry the baby, which I can possibly do,
Mm-hmm.
or do you have a surrogate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to carry a baby, I have to take a break from some of my medications that keep the estrogen at bay
Okay.
and bring myself out of menopause. Um, which is quite a process. So like I'd have to have my full body scanned before that just to make sure they
Yeah.
don't see any areas of concern, and then kind of monitor you throughout your pregnancy. And then once that was done, I'd go back on the medication for the rest of its course. So I could do that, or I could
Yeah.
maybe wait until all of my treatment is done because it's about a 5-year course of treatment and then see where I'm at and carry a baby myself, or I could have a surrogate, right? So there's kind of 3 different options.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still kind of in process of chatting with my oncologist about, what she thinks would be best for me. I'm leaning towards carrying it one way or another, but I know that that does pose
Yeah.
not, I don't want to say a huge risk, like the data on it's really promising, but there is a risk, right? With
For sure.
that estrogen coming back into my body.
Yeah, I had no idea that. It does make sense though that you'd have to come out of
Yeah,
menopause and
yeah.
then carry. Um, yeah, again, one of those things that
Just don't.
the
Yeah.
education you don't know until you know. Looking back on, um, some people always ask me this question, and I like weirdly like love, I don't even think love is the appropriate term, but love to ask other people this question too. Had you, would you have liked to know? Like, as your younger self, would you have liked to know, hey, I'm gonna go through this? Or would you have rather been like, quote unquote, naive and like
Yeah. I
every
mean,
day?
I
I
think
thought back and forth, so there's
it's
no right or right answer.
that's a great question. I think I'd rather be naive because I wouldn't have wanted to live knowing this was coming, right? I think that would
Hmm.
really impact my quality of life. I wish I knew more about breast cancer. Like, I wish there was better, like, awareness for young women about, like, these are the risk factors. These are the different types of breast cancer. Like, I wish, like, all of that was
Hmm.
different so that, you had an ability to maybe find it sooner than I did. So that, I mean, I'm still thankful I found it earlier than, some do, unfortunately. But I did have lymph node involvement, and had I found it before that, like my recovery would have been a lot easier, and my, you know, what I had to go through might have been different, right? So
Hmm.
the earlier you find it, the better. And I feel like as a society, we don't teach women enough about their health and what warning signs to look for, or and we don't do anything proactive. And I would really like that to change in my lifetime.
Do you, so speaking of that, obviously you've been very open on social media. Did you always want to do that right away, or in the beginning were you hesitant? What has been like your
Yeah.
journey of sharing your journey on social media?
Yeah, I think it was therapeutic for me. Like, I don't do well, like, I'm a pretty outgoing person for the most part. Like, I like to be open. I like using social media. I just feel like everyone would have found it weirder if I just kind of reclused into myself and went missing. So I decided pretty early on that I was going to share it, be open, use it as like literally a form of therapy and community building. And I'm thankful that I did, because through that I met so many women who had gone through the same thing that I could ask questions to, like a whole community of people who got it. And like, if I needed to vent about something that was bothering me that no one else would understand, you had those people to go to and do that. And if I didn't put myself out there in that way, I wouldn't have had that. And I think I would have struggled a lot more than I ended up struggling. And I think I was able to pull through better because I had that network of people. And as you say, there are trolls out there,
Mhm.
but for the most part, most people are good, and most messages are positive, and good.
I feel
And
like, yeah, having that community as much as your family or friends or partner can try and support, unless you literally are the person
yeah,
going through it, it is so hard to navigate and understand. Um, and obviously, as I said, and as you said, there are trolls. How have you learned? I always ask this too. Have you learned to like not take it personally, especially on the days that
yeah,
you're like already down and you're like, holy
yeah.
crap?
I mean, like, listen, if someone has to go to the trouble of making a fake account to come
So
and
true.
tell me that cancer should have killed me or something like that, then they're a sadder person than I am, and I feel bad for them. Like that, and that's the way I look at it. Like, how sad are you that you have to go out of your way to do something like this? So I feel for you, for those people, and I hope they get the help they need, really, at the end of the day, because that's how you have to get through it. Yeah.
You've been very, what I've loved is obviously not easy as what you were talking about when your hair was shorter and
Yeah.
curly and you weren't used to that. But I love how you still like shared your fashion and tried to
Right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you always like, yeah, I like how you like adapted, like you've always loved fashion, but like integrated that into this part of your journey as well. Um, what do you wish to, last two questions here. What do you wish to tell family and friends of someone going through treatment? And then what do you wish to tell your younger self now?
Yeah, I think for anyone who has someone, going through it, don't try to connect too much if you haven't been through it yourself. Like, I think, a lot of people as humans, we want to relate, right? We want to compare it to something like similar that
Mm-hmm.
they've been through. And I get that, but it's so different, right? So unless you've been through it or something life threatening like that, or like completely life altering, you won't really be able to connect. And a lot of people who are going through cancer don't necessarily appreciate certain comparisons. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to give examples, and I, like, at the end of the day, I think we all like know everybody means well, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just we would prefer that someone's just there to listen, like hey, like sit there, offer to come to chemotherapy with us if you're a family or friend, and just be there. Like, let's talk about something other than cancer. Like, let's talk about, like, I like to talk about Bravo shows, like things that we enjoy, just get our mind off of it. I think that's my biggest piece of advice. Just sometimes people would try to, relate in a way I'm like, no, that's not the same. Like, let's talk about something else. Like, let's move on. And to my younger self, I would have, now I'd be like, okay, here's how to do a self assessment of your breasts. Like, make sure you're doing that every month, from the time you're basically a young teenager to now, so you know what feels
Mm-hmm.
normal and you know if something is wrong. And just, I'm pretty outspoken and I'm not afraid to advocate for myself, so I would, remind myself that that's a good quality and don't let anyone tell you it's not, because I think if I wasn't like that, I might have been diagnosed at a later stage, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
For sure. That makes total sense. I feel like, yeah, what you're saying for the family and friends aspect of sometimes not talking about the elephant in the room is really nice.
Yeah, it's
You
something
already
else.
can like feel the pressure. So yeah, someone talking about random whatever
Yeah,
does help
it
quite a
does
bit.
help.
But at the same time, like if we want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But
Mhm.
I think not prying, I think is
Yeah,
really, really
let us
important.
bring it up, right? Like, I think
Yes.
it's always on our mind. Like, sometimes it's just nice to do something else. Like, my best days when I was in treatment were days where we just like went and lived like as if I was just myself and I
Hmm.
wasn't a cancer patient. Like, that's what I needed the most.
Is there anything that any of your nurses or doctors or even from the community that you met on Instagram that said to you or sent you a text? Like I have a few of those moments where someone said something that like clicked and has like stayed with me forever. Was there anything that someone said or did that you were like that gave you motivation or was
Yeah.
like you got it?
There's definitely like a whole multitude of things, but I think like one of the key things that a few people in the community have always said, like, is like it's not just hair, because
Mm,
like I think if you polled a lot of women, the losing your hair part is probably the hardest thing you go through, when you're sick. And yeah, someone very early on said it's okay to feel upset about it. It's not vain. It's not like trivial. It's not just hair. Like, it's your identity, and it's what makes you look sick. And that's literally the hardest part of going through this whole ordeal. Like, I often have joked, like, cancer treatment wouldn't be so bad if it didn't physically alter you so much.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good because I yeah, like how they said like it's not vain because I feel like I mean, I can only imagine because I have not been in that you could feel like it's hair, there's bigger issues. Like
Yeah, like that's
that, you're like, I'm
kind of
going
the
through
impression
chemo.
you
Why
get.
am I worried about my hair?
Yeah.
But it's okay to feel
Yes. It's
that.
okay to be
And
sad about it. Yeah.
exactly. I think that's actually a really good takeaway, or for anyone going through cancer is,
Yeah.
um, obviously like it's okay to feel those type of
Yeah.
things and you're not vain. I think that's
Yeah.
actually really important. Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
talking about your younger self, do you feel like you have obviously you had these like traits of that since you were a young girl, and I'm sure your parents and your family and your fiance always saw that like strength and resilience in you, or the way that you um have determination. Do you feel like even more so now? I know for me a little bit, you like kind of have become the person, you like see that line, you like kind of come the person that you needed as a, not needed as a kid, but kind of become this like role model that you like kind of didn't expect you would be at the same time. Like I get emotional when I see, I don't know if you do, but when I see photos of me as like a little girl, I'm like, she had no idea. Like she had no idea, and I'm sure it sounds like you have such an amazing family and friend support system. But I'm sure for them too. I remember my sister, well, after Colby passed away, she was like, I wish I was nicer to you growing up. Like, had I known what you were going to go through, I probably would have been nicer to you. So, do you think your family and friends kind of feel the same, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like it was just a shock too to everyone when I was like, hey, like I have cancer, right? Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
think anyone ever expected those words to come out of my mouth. And I mean, my friends and family have been great, yeah, but I don't think that was on anyone's bingo card, and I'm sure some
Mm-hmm.
of them do have feelings like that. But I know no one ever doubted that I would like be strong through it, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I know they always like say, "Oh, you're so strong," and
I hate that saying at
I
times,
hate
to be
it
honest.
in some ways.
I'm
Yeah, you know
like,
what I mean? It's like not really. Am I strong, or was
what
this
else was I
thing I
supposed
had
to
to
do?
deal with?
Like,
Yeah, didn't I wasn't that strong. I just showed up and put my arm out, and they pumped me full of drugs. But yeah, so yeah, it's a weird saying, but at the same time, like. I prefer the word like resilient, right? Like you have
yeah.
your ups and downs and it's okay to not be strong. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty healthy to feel weak at times and cry and let those emotions out because if you don't, they're just going to explode.
I do feel like yeah, appreciate the word resilient
Yeah,
more than strong.
for sure. Me too.
Which is, yeah, obviously what you are. But thank you so much for the honestly, I feel way more educated on breast
Well,
cancer
yeah,
and the journey that you've been through and continue to go through.
yeah,
But one last question: do you watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
I do. Yeah, I finished season two. That
When you
show's
said when you
wild.
said the Bravo shows, I was
Yeah,
like, oh, she
there's
probably wishes that show was
I
on
got
during
really
chemo.
into reality TV when I was sick. Like I always kind of
Yeah.
liked it, but I think I just watched everything. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I like binged second
Yes.
season. I'm like,
Yeah.
when is season three out? I
I
have
know.
so many
I was like, I think I
emotions.
need to move to Utah and like just go watch these people in the wild.
Yeah, I also feel like it's wild to me that Colin actually said it. He was like, it's wild to me that no one's actually even really drinking and all this drama's
I'm like, I
happening.
know. I'm like, are they
Like,
like sneakishly putting alcohol into those sodas because
like,
this behavior is unhinged?
what's in that swig
Yeah.
drinks?
What's
Like,
what's going on? What's in there?
I know, now I feel like I got to go to Utah. Like, now I
Yeah.
need to,
Yeah.
like, I'm so invested. That's so funny. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to ask
Yeah.
her.
No,
Do you have a
absolutely.
favorite?
I mean, I don't know who my favorite is because one minute I think it's one person, like I
That's so
thought I
true.
liked Demi, and now I'm like, do I still like Demi? I don't know if I like her anymore.
I know.
Or
I know.
Jessie, I don't know.
Yeah, it switches so fast. It's such
Yeah.
a, yeah, such a great show. But
Yeah.
thank you so much
Oh, you're
for
welcome. Thanks for
coming
having me.
on and sharing your journey. We're gonna hook all your socials too. So if
Okay, perfect.
anyone has any questions
Yeah.
or wants to follow your journey or knows someone also going through breast cancer, that they can reach out or ask any questions, because I think social media is very powerful and
It
amazing
is.
that way.
Yeah, for sure. And it's honestly the biggest help to anyone going through it. Just reach out to someone in the community. Like, I'm an open book. Like, I will answer as much as I can.
Thank you. I've loved watching your journey. So thanks for coming on and chatting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.